Good evening from Swansea wrestling fans. I almost forgot where I was for a second, but good evening from Swansea. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. It's Mailbag Monday, and we have some mail, and we're going to answer your questions on today's show. But before we do, I need to introduce the panel, and let's kick things off. Firstly, with Clark Taylor. How are you today, Clark?
I may not be in Swansea, but I am stoked to be here today for sure. Answer some questions. We've got mail as usual. Fired up about that. Can't wait to get into it. What a great weekend. SummerSlam, all kinds of good stuff coming up the rest of this month. Bash at Berlin, little All In. I mean, All Out down the road. That's next month, but we've just got good wrestling content on the way. I can't wait to keep talking about it.
Absolutely, and the G1 is on at the minute as well, so it's been an absolute nightmare for me, David, and Kobe to keep up with, right? We've been messaging each other every day, all our star ratings and all that for the G1. None of us are agreeing on a single match. It's an absolute disaster. It's a war zone of a chat, but it's been a lot of fun. Just like, hopefully, this show will be today. And also joining us, we have Sol. How are you, Sol?
Very good, lads. Very good. Of course, All In is this month as well, and also just a great month for the British wrestling scene in general. But nonetheless, of course, SummerSlam was very, very good. It was a very good show. Probably the best WWE show of the year. All the right people won. I mean, hey, look, all the right people won. You know, Drew won. Victory. There's nothing more I need to say. Victory.
Absolutely. I mean, CM Punk did take the L. Your least favorite wrestler did lose. We have Austin Steele 16 over on Instagram saying that he was at SummerSlam and it was incredible. We have Macy Boy saying hi, hello to you. And we have Lord Virus of Nurgle saying hey as well. Hello guys, I hope you're having a great show. And let's just get straight into things, shall we? Let's talk for a second about a pay-per-view coming up later this month, or a premium live event to be correct, and that is Bash in Berlin, because we did this for Money in the Bank a few months ago, and all of us were really just completely off when it came to predicting the card ahead of time. But Bash in Berlin, well, it's an even more unpredictable card, so hey, let's just try and let's just predict it, shall we? I'll kick things off, right? I've got my predicted card up here. I am predicting that for the WWE Championship, we're going to have Cody Rhodes versus Santos Escobar. Then, I think we're going to have a tag match, right? But it's not a tag team title match. I'm not insane. I know Triple H hates putting those on pay-per-views for some reason. But it is Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley teaming up to take on Liv Morgan and Finn Balor, not Dirty Dom. Then, for the World Championship, I'm predicting Gunther versus Ilya Dragunov. Maybe I'm being a little hopeful here, but I just don't know what else is there for Gunther if it's not Dragunov. And I would love to see this match, and that crowd in Berlin, well, it deserves this match. But for the Intercontinental Championship, I am not predicting Breakker versus Ludwig Kaiser like a lot of people are predicting, but instead I'm predicting Breakker versus Ludwig Kaiser versus Sheamus. I reckon we're getting a triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. And for the Women's Championship, I am predicting Nia Jax versus Bayley, a rematch for that belt. But Clark, I'm going to go to you next. What do you predict for WWE's first ever Germany pay-per-view?
So I'm going to start with the one that I have in common with you for sure. I do think we are getting the Nia Jax versus Bayley rematch. So that one is definitely on my card. My IC match is definitely different than yours. I've got Dragunov in that match against Braun Breaker at Bash in Berlin myself. When it comes to the Judgment Day picture, I've got Dirty Dom and Liv versus Rhea and Damian Priest. Give the people what they want. Come on, let's make it happen. That's 3. We've got 2 matches left, and this is where it gets interesting. In the co-main event of the evening, I have our tag team champions from the New Age bloodline taking on Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. And this is the night Randy becomes the Viper again. And he snakes Cody. And they do not win those tag team titles, but it is a tag team title match. I've got that one on my card. And to round things out, in the main event, I've got Drew McIntyre against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship in Berlin. And an appearance from that Second City Saint, that dastardly Second City Saint in that main event again. We'll see him run in from the crowd. He just won't let it go with Drew.
Oh, I think that's a very good card indeed. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. All day long, I've had that tag match, Bloodline versus Kevin Owens and Randy Orton on it. But ultimately, I've got
Cody.
The end...
I've got Cody and Orton.
Cody and Orton?
Cody and Orton.
Oh, wow. I didn't even pick that up when you said it.
I have Cody
That's
and Orton.
Interesting.
And Orton finally says, I've had enough. RKO out of nowhere on Cody.
He returned at the same time. And they're just chucking him under the bus.
I'm fine with that. Just from a storytelling perspective, I think it's time.
Orton I agree.
Spikes Cody with that RKO.
Oh, I love that so much. I really, really do like your card. I think that would be a lot of fun. Indeed. McIntyre Gunther as well. That would be an absolute banger. Of course, we saw, but we've seen it a couple of times now. But I would not complain to see it again. We have quite a few comments here. We have Bobby Petito saying Luke Jacobs is wrestling against Kid Lycos in a rematch for the Progress World Championship on August 26th. Absolutely, yes. He is. That was announced today, and I am hyped up for it. We have 26 WWE in the chat. Hello to you. We have Chris Leclerc predicting Bayley versus Nia Jax.
We're on the same page.
Calf Case K says Gunther versus Brock. Come on. I mean, if that match ever is able to happen, it would certainly be a fun one. Bobby also agrees with you, Clark. He's saying Breaker versus Dragunov for the IC title. Makes sense. But Calf Case K is saying Brock Lesnar's probably, being a bit hopeful. But Jey Uso is a gut feeling. That's a great shout. Bobby Petito saying LA Knight versus Santos Escobar for the US title. That could happen. You could be right there, Bobby. Meanwhile, Shad says Sammy versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship would be nice for both. That's not a bad shout either. Oh, there's so many different ones you could do. Lyra Liv too. We have Hassan Terrell. Hello to you. And LA Knight versus Andrade 26 WWE is saying there's some great shouts here indeed. It's a lot of fun, and it's very unpredictable because we've complained at times about the Triple H regime being quite predictable. Well, this pay-per-view is anything but, because we can't even predict what the matches are going to be on it, and we're only a few weeks away. But Soul, I want to know your prediction. What do you think is going to happen?
It's very interesting to see, gentlemen, because I think might be a bit similar here. First of all, I have LA Knight versus Santo Escobar for the US title there. I think LA will do what Logan Paul couldn't and turn up for work, and will show up and actually be a defending champion and reinstate what the United States Championship is, because it has been heavily neutered with Logan Paul, and it really needs to get that girth and revenge back into the title. Next I have is Nia Jax versus Michin for the Women's World Championship, because I know Michin's been involved in Nia Jax in the past. Be a good opportunity to start off Nia's reign very strong. I then have Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest versus Liv Morgan and Finn Balor in a mixed tag team match. I know, a tag team match on a WWE card. Wow, we're really getting into dream match booking here, folks, because when is the last time we've had a tag team match on a WWE card? Let me guess. Oh, yes, it was Money in the Bank, but it wasn't even with the titles, because the titles will probably be on the SmackDown before, as they have been since WrestleMania. I think this will be a good start leading into Bad Blood, which I think will then be Rhea versus Liv round 2, and will also then be Damian Priest versus Finn Balor, maybe even having the Demon Finn Balor come out against Damian Priest. I think that's something we could see go down there at Bad Blood. Next I have is Ludwig Kaiser versus Braun Breaker versus Ilya Dragunov in a freeway for the Intercontinental Championship. To get Kaiser that hometown opportunity, I hope, because Triple H has done it like with Isla Dawn and Kaylee Ray in the Clash of the Castle Scotland. Still haven't done really anything with those tag team championships. Okay, fair enough. And then obviously the main event will be Gunther versus a foe from his past of his IC reign. I think it will be Gunther versus Sheamus for the world title and Bash in Berlin. They have a history. They have a story. Can you really build a story in a couple of weeks' time? Probably could. But I think to have that flashback to the IC run, it will allow to show what Gunther has evolved from being IC champion to now being a world champion. And yes, of course, no Cody, no bloodline, because why are they going to turn up for a glorified house show?
I mean, certainly when it comes to Roman Reigns, I do not think he's getting on a flight to Europe anytime soon. But I don't know. I still very much think we could see Cody Rhodes, because his face is the main face on all the posters. Maybe he's just going to be on the SmackDown. Who knows?
To say for that is, the problem is obviously people will always look at the WWE Championship as the superior belt because it has the history, it has the lineage. You want this world title to feel equally, or if not as more important. So why not give it that opportunity to headline a show on its own, and to start Gunther off strong would really build him well. That's my personal opinion.
To your point, Soul, that was my logic on inserting Cody into the tag match. It's like, yes, the WWE champion's still there. If he's going to go to Berlin anyway, he's already going to be there. You might as well use him in some way, but not allow it to be in a position where the WWE title can potentially overshadow that world heavyweight title. I use the same logic, just in a different way in my card. I actually agree with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, those are some great points, guys. David Marge is saying that he got emotional when Cody was walking Pharaoh the other day. Oh. I mean, the last time we'll see Pharaoh, of course, at a WWE event, but it was a fantastic moment, no doubt about it. Chris Leclerc says if it doesn't happen at Berlin, it's going to happen at Bad Blood, Nia Jax versus Bayley. Hassan is saying TNA Wrestling Emergence is on August 30th. That's going to be excited. And David Marge is excited for Balor versus Priest. Absolutely. But 26 WWE loves the idea of Braun Kaiser, Dragunov, Sheamus, a fatal four-way. So basically combining all our ideas for the Intercontinental Championship and putting them into one. That would be very fun indeed. Also, to answer 26 WW's question, 5 or 6 matches. We've gone with 5 just for the simplicity of it, because most Triple H's premium live events are 5. So we'll just stick with that to, make it easy, and make it easy on me when I do the graphics for the Instagram afterwards.
Well, hey, as well, it'll be easy for Chaos because he's going to be there. I know in his old age he really needs his sleep, so it will be a quick show and you can get to bed.
That's good stuff.
Lord Virus of Nurgle goes, okay, so what about Gunther versus Rollins versus McIntyre versus Priest for the world title? I mean,
that's a lot.
It's like,
how are we going to get that? That's the question.
I don't like CM Punk, but that quote he said at the Clash of the Castle thing, take your fantasy booking somewhere else. I think you're overcomplicating it. Keep it simple, boys. Come on now.
I don't think so.
Honestly, I have to save it for the next question because I've got an idea that involves everybody in that question. So just do stay tuned for that one, because
I mean, that's a perfect lead-in.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but I am saying I don't want to get into it too early and ruin my next segment that I've been planning.
But before we get into that, TL3118 saying, well done, guys, I like it. And Lord Virus of Nurgle goes, RKO on Rhodes from the Viper. And 26 WWE, I mean, I'm not able to confirm this, but he's saying that the first hour of Raw's commercial free tonight.
It's correct.
It's
correct.
I might have to stay up.
How about it?
I might have to stay up for it. I'm planning to and see how far I can get with it. I've had a few coffees. Call me Tony Khan, but Bobby Petito believes in Joe Hendry, and so does David Marge. But now let's move on and let's talk about somebody else who I believe in, who I've always believed in, and that is Seth freaking Rollins. I've always been a big fan of him, but this question comes from @Alina_Goodley, who goes, what do you think is the direction for Seth Rollins after SummerSlam? Well, this entire Punk McIntyre situation, it's very, very messy, but Clark, I want to get your perspective on this. Where do you think they're going? What do you think they're doing, Q, in your words?
This is the perfect mini spider web where they all hate each other for various reasons. And what we saw at SummerSlam was incredibly entertaining and well executed. I loved the callbacks to the Shawn Michaels special guest referee stuff. I loved a lot of it. I loved the Sabu pants line that Punk dropped on Rollins in the middle of the match. I don't care about your Sabu pants. That made me laugh really, really, really hard. This rivalry between the three isn't over very clearly. And to me, despite the fact that Gunther's the world heavyweight champion, Gunther is the world heavyweight champion at this point, there's a 4-way match down the road. The direction we go from here, I think Drew getting the win at SummerSlam is what catapults him into that world title match with Gunther at Bash at Berlin, like I said on my card earlier. How we navigate that match, CM Punk has chased down Drew and cost him at every turn. I think the most fascinating thing we can do from here is have Seth Rollins, who has a bone to pick still with CM Punk, prevent him from doing so at Bash at Berlin in a way that still distracts Drew. So he's mad at both. And then we get our 4-way match at Bad Blood. And then from there, you can pay off each and every one of those singles matches with all 4 involved, including Gunther. I don't mind adding the extra piece to this storyline, but the direction for me with Seth Rollins is he's going to be the guy. Punk has been the guy that's been one step ahead of Drew, frustrating him until the bracelet thing happened. Seth needs to be a step ahead of Punk and get a few over somehow, I think, just to lean into that part of the storyline so that all 3 can truly pay this off the way it should be paid off down the road, and not in a situation where we're not really sure which one got the best of SummerSlam, because there's an argument to be made that Seth Rollins was the highlight of that match as the referee, and he didn't even wrestle.
There absolutely is. I mean, do you think, Clark, they could potentially drag this all the way to next year's WrestleMania 41? Because a lot of people are predicting that.
I think it's very possible. I wouldn't necessarily say probable, but the moment in the Rumble, if you have just those 3 or just those 4 in the ring, I don't know if that's worth turning down if you can get there. It does seem like Raw going to Netflix, that Netflix debut show is going to play like a PLE, like a premium PLE, for lack of a better way to put it. Like it's going to play like a Big 4 show. I have no doubt about that. That is a massive, huge deal, because it also ends the streak on the longest running episodic cable show in the history of television. It ends that streak. So it's a monumental moment. It's huge. That show I could see easily being headlined by any combination of Rollins, Punk, and Drew. I could easily see that being the absolute put it on the marquee match, even if it's all 3, if it's a fatal 4-way. I don't know how they're going to stretch it with Gunther's reign, because I don't know if Gunther fits the storyline with the other 3. And I don't know if the other 3 need the title, but a triple threat match to me without a title doesn't make any sense. So in my eyes, they've either got to be inserted back into the world title picture or stay away from it and make it a blood feud. But a 3-way blood feud is interesting, because you can't pay them all off at the same time unless there's that belt involved too.
Yeah.
And so that's where, hands are tied a bit, but I could see the fatal 4-way happening maybe on Raw at Netflix. That's maybe where the title change happens. Because I also don't necessarily subscribe to this. Gunther's going to have the same type of reign he did with the IC title.
Really?
I find that hard to believe. I just don't.
It until
We've seen two. We saw 2 all-time Hall of Fame level title reigns end at WrestleMania 40. To just go back and rinse and repeat, I think let's be better than that. Let's be better than that.
I reckon they're doing it. They love Gunther, and I feel like they're going to have him.
That long of a reign, it's going to clog the top of the card on Raw, especially given the roster. It will.
It will. I agree with you, but I think is what's going to happen. I mean, I think they're going to do. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I think they're going to do Gunther versus Cena at Mania for the World Championship. And I think
It'll be
Cena's going to
fascinating.
lose. But I have a feeling that's the match which is going to be on the Raw side. But as for the Roman Reigns side of things, we'll get onto that later on in the show. But before we do, we got a few comments to get to. Calf KSK is saying Roman is probably the favorite to win the Rumble. That's a good shout. Shad is saying, I think you can have a three-way match without the belt. Yeah, I mean, you absolutely could do too.
You could. I've always felt like the stakes, the belt is a big factor. That's just my personal opinion.
No, and that's a great point as well. I mean, David Marge is saying Roman winning the Rumble as well. We'll have to wait and see, no doubt about it, and we'll get into Roman a bit later on. But before we do, guys, I need to talk to you about my favorite thing, right? Because unlike Cody Rhodes, I'm not going to ask you what you guys want to talk about and then just go on a different tangent. I'm going to straight up tell you, I don't care what you want to talk about. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And what I want to talk about is Next Level. And the reason I want to talk about it is because it's a brilliant platform. Very, very simply, they've taken all our social media links, they put them in one place. And that one place is nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic to see all our content across all platforms, linked all in one place. Plus, they have an app. If you click that link, you download their app. Within their app, they have a wrestling section just for wrestling content creators. There's a thriving wrestling community on there. And the app is completely free as well. There is absolutely nothing to lose. So, why not? It's a win-win, win-win, winner-winner chicken dinner. It's as simple as that. But now, let's move on to talk a little bit about AEW Collision. The Colliders are out in full force. Or maybe they're not. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe there are no Colliders anymore. Nobody's watching this show. But this question comes from Jose99, otherwise known as Numero on Superfly, I believe. And that is asking, how should AEW fix Collision? Well, I'm going to start this off by just saying, what they're doing right now, putting it in that one venue every week, I think is working. Because you have a crowd who's really passionate about it. It's a unique look. And you're kind of getting a similar audience for the show each week. And it's building an identity for it, which I think is a huge, huge bonus. But Soul, obviously you're the big AEW guy here. I want to get your perspective on this. How can they fix, improve, whatever you want to use, AEW Collision? You're muted, up.
I wasn't fostering Clark's sessions. I was being a bit respectful, but I'm trying not to be now.
Thank you.
Right. Main thing here is I've seen people going about the brand split, right? Oh, AEW needs a brand split with the roster and all that. No, because here's the thing, right? Even if you do a brand split, one show will always be seen as superior than the other. We've seen it with WWE, where periods where Raw's the best thing and SmackDown suffers, then SmackDown is awesome and Raw suffers. So it will always be a continuing balance. And right now, if it was to happen, Collision would just completely collapse. Yes, you could put major people on it. And also as well, I never want to see two top belts in the AEW. I don't want to see something that is seen that's on counterpart to the World Championship. You should only ever have one World Championship. And if you have two, it just makes things complicated. And I will always see whoever's AEW World Champion as the top guy, not who was the other secondary belt. Nonetheless, right? So Collision itself, the holding it Collision separately in this one sports arena is a good thing as well. It builds up, as you said there, the loyal audience and the look as well. Because that look of the esports thing, I actually kind of like it. I think it's a nice look as well. We've seen with Collision that there's only been some exclusive Collision acts. You know, the House of Black have always been completely featured on Collision mostly. Hologram, this new guy they brought in who has been introduced very well. Gringo Loco was his first opponent. Then he was tagging with Mystico. Like what they've put into Hologram, like I had no idea who he was. Now I know who he is, and I'm very, very impressed. Hologram could be a big Collision project, somebody that's built up just solely for Collision, and people can tune in and see more of Hologram. What that means for his title picture, maybe TNT, because obviously Collision is on TNT. But I think Hologram will be a very, very big addition to Collision for its future. They've been featuring other programs on it as well. You know, Mariah May was featured on it, which continued the Tony Storm thing. You know, Tony was coming out for a match. and just didn't even go for the match, just went straight to the commentary desk where Mariah was at, which I love. Why do not people more do that? It's like they have their match and then attack the person they hate. Like Tony's like, nah, screw the match. I just want to get and attack Mariah. I love that. Thought that was amazing. It will always be, Collision will always be seen as secondary, with Rampage being third and Dynamite being first. There will be people who only watch Dynamite because Dynamite was the first show for AEW. They might see Collision through the Instagram posts or social media. They might see it on, replays and stuff like that, and downloading the show to watch it at a later date. It will be the nature of the beast. Whatever we see with the rights deal for TV might change that. If, Dynamite stays on TV and maybe Collision goes to Max to get that diversifying audience, you have Collision be a mainstay of Max and Dynamite be the mainstay of network television. Might be a way to see how you can contrast with two different audiences. Might be a good way for Warner Brothers Discovery to be like, hey, for our television package people, you can get AEW Dynamite 2 hours of professional wrestling on your TV screens. And for our fans who love Max, you can get 2 hours of professional wrestling with Collision. And then when the pay-per-views come out, whether it's Triller or Bleacher Report, or if they're going to be on Max, you then have that avenue of, well, television viewers, you have seen what you loved. Now go to Max and you can get the big show experiences. And for our Max viewers, maybe we can include something like a 10% discount because you've been loyal to Max and you've watched Collision on Max. So you get a 10% discount to the pay-per-view, and could maybe incline television audiences to go to the streaming platform to get that 10% discount. I might even watch Collision as well, because at the end of the day, the world of television will go to streaming. So Dynamite to maybe be a swan song of television network broadcasting while it moves to streaming on Max could be maybe the future of AEW with TNT.
I really like that idea, Soul. I really, really do. About, it going to, Collision going to Max, meanwhile Dynamite on TV, because, that's what WWE are doing, essentially, sending over Raw to Netflix, keeping SmackDown on TV for the time being, and then you have both avenues. And if they do, what you're saying, have pay-per-views on Max still cost money, but give a discount to subscribers, I think that is a very, very strong business idea. I think Tony Khan does need to listen to that one.
Yeah, this suit isn't just show, boys. I
agree on the Arlington, the esports arena being used. I think it's great, and also wrestling history wise, it's not exact. It's the Dallas market, right? Arlington is a suburb of Dallas essentially, but the history of wrestling at the Dallas Sportatorium, booking a summer series like this, I think the future, not just in Arlington, but in other towns similar, to your point about the crowd earlier, I think is brilliant.
And also it gets them paid. AEW are being paid for this, so that's a big bonus too, because my concern was the crowds were going to start to not show up and it might be a bit quiet and stuff. And listen, we're still not fairly early on, almost halfway, I think, into this summer series now, but so far we've not noticed that. If that does happen, then maybe it's not great. But if the crowds keep up, then this is phenomenal for them, because they've been paid to do so. It's helped the quality of the product. It's a win-win.
The other factor too is you can fly into both Fort Worth or Love Field so easily. You have two giant airports there, so for travel, getting in and out, having talent come to the same town every week for a month, you're saving money on travel. You are. Yeah, it's simple there.
That's our Flying Republic of the day, the Flying Report.
Your airport situation. Always flying to Fort Worth, though, not Love Field.
We've got a few comments here. TL3118 saying, also just throwing it out there, if the Max deal goes through, Rampage should become a Ring of Honor Rampage, an hour show for the brand. Who knows? I like keeping them separate, but they need to do something with Ring of Honor, because what they're doing now is just, that is failing, right? AEW Collision, hey, it's not as hot as it once was. Ring of Honor's failing, straight up. But we do have a few more comments here as well. Shad saying Collision needs to be on another day because Saturday night isn't preferable. People have argued both sides of that.
I'll quickly say on that is that, weekly days, it's so packed for wrestling. Monday Raw, Tuesday NXT, Wednesday AEW, Thursdays TNA, Friday SmackDown, Saturday's Collision. Sundays is mostly like pay-per-views and all that. It's just way too stacked. It will be very hard to find a day that works best for that. Having it on the Saturday weekend, I don't know how American wrestling fan base, but it's weekend. Most people work a 9-to-5 job and all that.
I mean, for me, I find it interesting when it comes to this because I watch Collision Sunday morning, literally unless there's like a pay-per-view or I have another obligation, and really enjoy it. I watch it recorded Sunday morning if I don't watch it Saturday night. If I'm having a lazy Saturday, of course I'll watch it Saturday night. I don't want to recklessly speculate on everybody's job situations. Most people have Saturday off. And I would say American standard, Friday night is more the day to go out. So I feel like if this was a huge factor, it would affect SmackDown more than it does.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because Friday night has always been in my mind, like through my 20s and early 30s, the going out night. Yeah. Saturdays maybe more of like a, grill out with friends. You might go out on a Saturday. I'm not ruling it out. It's
maybe
possible.
A family meal or something on a Saturday night rather than a party.
But I definitely just think like or even a party at the house where you might put Collision on, right?
Exactly. That's
you may have people over and you may play it then. So I don't think that is I don't want to knock anybody's opinion on the Saturday night time slot part of it, but I don't think it's as big of a factor because also with recording now, you're still going to get credit. Yeah. People with DVRs, you're getting credit for those views. So if you're watching it Sunday morning like me, it's as if you watched it live because you recorded it on your DVR. That's how they're counting that.
I'll say one final thing as well. We can always review this topic because me and Allison, Chaos, and David are going to be at a Collision taping in Cardiff. So we can just see how from this point now to there, things have changed. Will it be beneficial being taped after a Dynamite? How will it feel differently? We can actually get that in live experience and judge it for ourselves in person.
100%.
Absolutely. And I mean, another thing as well is, right before Collision happened, everybody was saying that people missed wrestling on Saturdays on a weekly basis, and the WWE pay-per-views were reminding them how much they missed it. So they figured out the demand was there before they started this show. They didn't just chuck it on Saturday night. They found out, okay, the demand's there, it works for the network, let's do this. So I understand the Saturday thing, but I think it's also a Friday thing, and it works for SmackDown. So yeah, to everybody's point, I think Saturday can work. David saying Collision is 2 hours of good wrestling every week, and that's enough for him. Fair enough. But now let's move on and let's talk about the Tribal Chief. Throw those ones up. Firstly, before we get started, Chaos, I tuned into the Daily yesterday, and you had the absolute audacity to put your one up. You were rooting for the American atrocity, Cody Rhodes, the homelander of professional wrestling at WrestleMania. You have lost any right to put your one in the air. You did not acknowledge your Tribal Chief when he was down, so you cannot now acknowledge him when he's back up. But moving swiftly on from that, WrestleMania 41. The plan for Roman Reigns is unclear, because originally I thought it was clear as day that the plan was going to be Roman Reigns versus The Rock for the WWE Championship, and The Rock was going to beat Cody at the Rumble to get it. But we all know The Rock's, filming schedule. It's basically public information. Well, basically, it is public information. So we pretty much know it's going to be very, very hard for The Rock to show up before the Royal Rumble in order to build a feud with Cody. So therefore, I'm guessing it's going to be Cody versus Rock at Mania. Then the question is, what's next for Roman Reigns? Originally, I thought it might be Seth Rollins or Solo Sikoa. The issue is, I don't know if we can drag the Solo Sikoa thing that long, and also, unless Seth Rollins turns heel in that time, I don't think we're going to get that because Roman Reigns is pretty much a babyface now. So, to answer the question, I have absolutely no idea. Sol, do you have any clue?
This is tough. This is really, really tough because if you go back to the WrestleMania 40 behind-the-scenes documentary, Rock clearly states that Rock and Roman will happen at some point. Now, it's going to happen sooner than later because obviously age is a massive factor in this. But then it's like, well, what happens to everything else? So in my mind, I think John Cena is going to win the Rumble and challenge Gunther and actually win the World Heavyweight Championship to get his breaking record against Flair and use that as his retirement run title. Cody, it's weird because we've set up Cody and The Rock with the whole weird touching tips of belts things. Will that be what happens at Mania? It seems the thing that's been established, but then there's the documentary of like, well, they want Rock and Roman to definitely happen at some point, and Roman seems to be a babyface because he attacked Solo and injured his thumb because he was crying on the side of the ring. So what's happening now? That's the main thing. So I think Bad Blood will be Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa. Survivor Series War Game will be OG Bloodline versus New Bloodline, and maybe Rock will turn up there. It fully depends on if Triple H wants Cody Rhodes to enter WrestleMania with the championship. If he doesn't, then this is going to get hate. Rock should beat Cody for the championship at the Rumble. Have that title with Rock go against Roman Reigns and have babyface Roman Reigns with the title. In my mind, I've been against it in the past, but to see the reaction Roman got at SummerSlam on how he's loved, this is what they wanted for the whole of the 2010 period, and they've got it now. Run with it. Just run with it. They'll cheer him as a babyface. They'll love him. The fans will. Heck, I'm starting to like him now too, which is blasphemy against myself. Ugh. But nonetheless, this will be an exciting match. But then if Rock and Roman happens with the title, where does Cody Rhodes fit into this? Is he going to go against CM Punk? But then we've got CM Punk and Seth. Will that happen at Bad Blood, or will that happen at Mania? The placement of Rock, Roman, and Cody will be so cataclysmically undecided that I honestly don't think we can predict correctly until maybe the Netflix premiere of Raw or when we go into Rumble. This plan for Roman Reigns, Cody, and The Rock is the most up in the air Mania has been in a long time.
Yeah, I completely and utterly agree with you. I mean, the next thing would be, I mean, I guess last year's was unpredictable too because of the entire mess of this thing. But yeah, going into it, I don't know what to do. But like to your point, Rock Reigns, it probably makes the most sense. But the issue with it is how on earth are you going to get Rock the title off Cody? So are they just going to do Cody Rock without really a build? Like maybe that's what they've got to do. I mean, it's all a mess. But Clark, I want to get your thoughts.
I don't think Cody is anywhere near The Rock until after the fact. I think it is Rock Reigns, and I love the way that Soul broke that down, but I think the key moment, we're forgetting a key player in this entire scenario, and what we actually need to build towards when it comes to Roman's return and his relationship with the current iteration of the Bloodline and Solo Sikoa, is I want the moment down the road where he has to look at the wise man and ask, who did this? Who is telling Solo to do this? Who is telling these people, wise man, what's happening? And trembling with fear, Hall of Famer Paul Heyman delivers the line, and he doesn't say The Rock. He's got to do it this way. If you're listening, Paul, do it this way. Just whisper, Dwayne. That's it. Then it's on. From there, that moment not only will be the biggest gasp you've heard in ages, but all of a sudden you can hit if you smell at that moment or anything like that. That reveal to me is the key, and it's all about Rock Reigns, whether it is for the lay being tribal chief or the title or not. I really don't care. But Cody and Rock does so much less for me than Roman and Rock does headed to this Mania. There's really no debate when it comes to that in my eyes. And I think Cody's great, but he can do something else. We can figure out another rivalry for Cody. We can do all that stuff, whether it's the title or not. Rock Roman is the match. It's the heavyweight slugfest we all want to see. We've all been asking for. Who's the real tribal chief? Who's the real head of the table? Who's really running the family? All of that. And the key to me is the reveal, and it's got to be the return of Heyman. Wise man, who's doing this to me? Who did this? Who's going behind my back and set this up?
I love that.
I gotta say two real quick points. First of all, everything has to end. We want this Bloodline storyline to end on the grandest way it can for what it's done for WWE and professional wrestling. A babyface Roman Reigns defeating The Rock, a heel Rock who has been the most established star of the 90s and into the early 2000s.
Arguably all time. I mean, he's the best crossover star in the history of wrestling. There's no debate about that.
It would be a very good way to fully end the Bloodline saga. And second, Cody Rhodes did say on the SummerSlam post show that Roman Reigns could get a rematch at any time, and Cody has said that. So where does that fit in? Could that be on the first Raw on Netflix to get a cute interest in it? Could that be happening at Survivor Series? But then there's War Games factoring. There's a lot of pieces fitting into this puzzle, and the puzzle's maybe only at 8 done. We still got a lot of things to figure out where things play for this thing. It's going to be very, very interesting come April next year.
It is.
One thing which we haven't spoken about, which I don't think they'll do right, but there is one possibility which we haven't mentioned, which we can't rule out. Because we've said, Cody said to Roman Reigns, hey, if you want a rematch, you can have it. Rock, obviously Rock and Reigns, there's going to be a lot of stuff there, to your point, Clark. And also, we know Rock said that he's going for Cody. Is it possible they do a triple threat at Mania? I mean, we can't really rule that out.
We cannot rule that out.
Feel about it.
That would be, in my eyes, slightly disappointing.
Yeah, I agree.
But I would accept it if it was done tastefully. If it was done tastefully, I think at that point, though, now we're looking at callback. You got to insert Seth into that storyline somehow. I think he has too much work. He has too much work to do with the other side with Punk and Drew on the way back to that world title. And I just don't think the timing lines up, but that fatal 4-way would be off the charts.
It's fascinating.
I think Punk will probably be Seth at Mania, or maybe even a triple threat with Drew.
No,
but
David.
Another thing we need to account is obviously Rock's People Championship. You know, he seems to have said like that will be on the line or something like that, or he's going to maybe do stuff with that with Cody. So it was like
no. So what he said about the People's Championship was originally like he wanted to put that up against Roman or something, and it got shot down. I think it was in the documentary.
Like that, it's so weird though. It's like as we said, there are just so many factors. There's so many main eventers. Yeah. Who's going to main event night 1? Well, it will obviously be a night 2 event. Will it be the World Heavyweight Championship?
Cena Gunther, we agree on that. So
the necklace is going to be key.
But like how we saw with Mania 40, you know, a tag team match main event. Of course, it was with The Rock and Roman against Cody and Seth. But could something like that happen this year? Could there be a situation where something so great happens, or a story happens that it trumps titles and main events night 1?
You know what would be really cool? To your point, you do Cody versus maybe Seth in a semifinal match in the co-main night 1, or in the opener night 1, and then you end night 1 with Rock Roman for the Tribal Chief, and then the 2 face off in the main event night 2. You do it like the old Undisputed title tournament, where when it was Jericho and Angle and Rock and Austin.
Injury. To your point, that was your point last year.
No, I know. We're spitballing here. I'm saying
fair enough.
On the point about multiple possibilities, I'm not saying that's what I would do.
But guys, that does bring us to the end of the show today, because we're all more confused than when we started this topic now. And I mean, that's the beauty of it. We don't know where this is going, but we can't wait to see where they do go. The first hour of Raw tonight, commercial free. I'm excited for it. I'm going to be watching live, I reckon. That's how excited I am for it. And we're going to have to wait and see how these stories play out. It's going to be a good one. Thank you, Soul. Thank you, Clark. And we will be back same time, same place tomorrow to talk a little bit of Monday Night Raw. Peace.